Oh god, it's happy times and places where that bloke from the DVD and Blu-ray extras tries to be all cheerful about Doctor Who and tries to guess what his special guest's favourite things are about an episode as he commentates positively along with it.
So, I'm Andrew Smith. I'm a writer, and in relation to Doctor Who, I wrote Full Circle. And for the last 10 years plus, I've contributed several stories to the Big Finish audio ranges for Doctor Who and other titles. So Toby, for my contribution to this excellent series of yours, I've selected The Dominators.
Welcome back, everybody. We're now going to episode 4 of The Dominators after watching episode, because the last one had no title. For those late to the party, episode 3 of The Dominators, but it does not have an episode 3 caption, which makes it, I think, unique in the history of Doctor Who. Classic Doctor Who, anyway. Now listen. We're going to see what is in store for the Dominators and the peaceful people of Dulkis as this story trundles to its conclusion. We are going to press play in 3, 2, 1. This Derek Sherwin, who I think had fractious working relationships with people. You could see that he sort of rubbed people up the wrong way, and yet I do like the gutsiness of his scripts for the invasion and the general demeanour that he foists upon season 7, even though he departs fairly quickly. It's a very short stint he has as producer, if you think about it, but he does have quite an impact on Doctor Who Sherwin. But I never felt he came across brilliantly in interviews. As I say, I think he rubbed people up the wrong way, certainly, but very, very influential on Doctor Who. And one of his influences was to annoy Oh, hang on. We're back in a spaceship all of a sudden. Anyway, we're on an island, Toby. It's very patronising. But a huge impact that Sherwin had on the show. They look fantastic when they're shot in profile, these Dominators. And I do think Ronald Allen is superb. I think it's it takes quite a lot of innate dignity to emerge unblemished whilst dressed as a stroppy tortoise. And I can see Derek Sherwin's point about this, because there are a lot of there's basically 2 cliffhangers to this. One is Toba about to destroy something or in the middle of destroying something, and that is resolved by Rago going, "Stop doing that, it's a waste of energy," or Cully and somebody in a museum with that museum collapsing upon them, which could be the result of Toba and his stroppy energy wastage. So I can see why Sherwin might have thought this was treading water a little bit. I certainly don't think the plot doesn't feel like it's missing bits or it jumps about too much as a result of the story's truncation. But it does mean we sadly lose Haseman and Lincoln, who I think were 2 very good writers, and I think the 2 Yeti stories are fabulous. We tried to get Kenneth Ives for the DVD and Brian Cant. I think Brian Cant was ill for quite a long time, because I remember Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure we tried to get him, and the word came back going, no, and he did do other things after that, but maybe his health was up and down. Whereas Kenneth Ives just is not somebody who wants to give interviews. I think I know he signs stuff and sends it back in the post, but he's never replied to requests for interviews. I think he phoned the boys at Phantom and just said, "Not really my thing." Maybe so. He's not ignorant or anything like that. It's just some people don't fancy giving interviews. But he's directed some good telly. As I say, he was married to Marty Kane. So he's in the film of Quatermass and the Pit, uncredited. Now, presumably, this isn't too much of a dilemma for the Quark, because Rago is the superior officer. I submit. I mean, yeah, they're two good actors, and their characters are fairly sort of broadly drawn, aren't they? But I always think it's to our advantage when baddies squabble with each other, and these two Donafs squabble. But he's like a kind of sort of terse Frankenstein, isn't he? Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein is the doctor, not the monster. But he's like a slightly peevish Frankenstein's monster. But he is like a sort of walking cadaver. He's very good. Wendy Padbury looks great with soot on her face. I don't know. There's something quite urchin-like about a grubby Wendy Padbury. And Andrew mentioned that he didn't think there would have been Foley artists here. There definitely wouldn't have been. I will keep an eye out for this actual rock that he mentioned. Some of these are definitely, but they're decent, but definitely lightweight rocks. Oh yes, of course they've been landed on by. Oh yes, no, they're under the ground. Yes, they found. So that was good, because it had been set up, hadn't it? That there's this shelter part underground, and they've fortunately found that in between, the bit of the set falling onto Cully and what looked like the destruction of the building. So that's nice, and that opens up a new opportunity for these characters, and the secret to the ultimate triumph of the good guys. And I always like it when Jamie sort of gets to befriend somebody and spearhead a bit of the action, because Jamie is sort of comic relief because of his because he's a bit dim, but he's always allowed to be very brave and instinctively clever. He's intellectually dim, but he's a bit like Leela in that sense, in that he's only uneducated. Well, no, he is a bit dim as well, but he's also instinctively adaptable and brave. He's a great character, Jamie. I like him a lot. We do like that sort of molecular bonding thing against the wall, but it is film, isn't it? So must have been sort of stuck in very quickly. That's quite deft vision mixing. That. I like his makeup too. It looks like he's got a slightly sort of stony face. Oh yes, he's going to. Oh, is this where he sort of goes? Will it fit me and a quark in it? But I don't think we ever get to see that, do we? Because there are certain situations that you don't want to see your baddies in, lest it sort of dull their luster slightly. And I think imagining Rago piloting the capsule squeezed in with the quark sitting behind him would probably have done nothing for his street cred, shall we say. Beep, beep, beep. What would they have done with the quarks if Lincoln and Haseman had carried on? I mean, you can't imagine them invading 20th century battling unit, can you? Troughton's good. He's always got that slight edge of panic about him. It is quite TARDIS-like, this set, isn't it, of the Dominator spaceship? And it's a decent size. Barry Newbury. Is it his only Troughton? I think so. But you can tell that this outside is a little limited in its space. But again, I think the rocks and the backdrop are actually pretty well done, considering they have to marry with. Obviously the dominant with the location. Obviously, the Dominators have very good lightweight mining equipment. Oh, that's one of the publicity pictures, isn't it? Balance sort of shrinking from the bright light of the mining equipment, but he moved that with great ease. They obviously their technology involves a certain amount of lightweight equipment. Oh yeah, you do see Rago with the with the travel machine. I wonder what we'd think about this if we only had a handful of telesnaps in the soundtrack. But actually, I think a lot of the things that help this are visual. You know, I don't think you'd get a lot of Ronald Allen's performance if you couldn't see the sort of snarling impassivity of his face. I do think it's a good idea to make them look slightly corpse-like. They creak, don't they? And you almost get the impression they've got sort of black blood, which I quite like. That's what I'd do if I was making a sort of more modern version of the Dominators. I'd give them black blood. I remember I once had an idea for a fan film. It was a prison planet, of course it was, and it had a couple of Dominators on it because I thought they would be able to be quite easily done and fairly easy to write. And I came up with a new rank because I quite like the fact that he's probationer. What is it, Navigator Rago and probationer Toba. That's a great word because it suggests he's a junior, he's an underling, he's the sort of he's the apprentice Dominator. He's working on his city and guilds in dominating, or perhaps he's just on some sort of work experience placement from Dominator finishing school, and I came up with another rank that was that complied with that sort of word structure, and I remember being very proud of it, and I can't remember what it was now. Functioner, I think. Yeah, which isn't actually that good, but I think I was sort of going sort of functionary, somebody who fulfilled basic tasks, so a sort of junior rank, functioner. Ober, it wasn't Ober, but it was something. I had a name for them, but I never wrote this story. I just thought about it a lot. Much of my life has been spent just thinking about things rather than doing them. I meant to look up how old Arthur Cox is in this, but I think late 20s, early 30s, but certainly not middle-aged as often written up as. And I remember him saying, "Oh yes, brilliant! Head over the hill." That was definitely Fraser Hines' idea. Why don't I put my hand on the top of his head and pull it back? That's exactly the sort of thing that Fraser Hines would come up with. And one of the many reasons I love him, because it just keeps it this side of daft, but it's fun, and it's embedded in great sort of farcy, silly tradition. But I remember Arthur saying that he was never quite sure how to pronounce quark, and he calls them quarks on location and quarks in the studio, or the other way around. I think because they hadn't quite agreed. So there's certainly a little bit of mandling between quark and quarks. Now, did I tell you about trying to find the quarks? John Hicks, who's one of the quarks, is is also the Axon boy in the Claws of Axos. And I was sent, was it Paul Scoons who sent it to me? I think it might have been, who's a very nice fan in New Zealand who writes various production notes and is a bit of an expert, and also a very nice chap. I went to New Zealand to do my one-man show, and, he dropped me a line and said, me and my wife will show you around New Zealand, and they did. I love all this stuff of Jamie throwing the rocks. But, of course, that is supposed to... yeah, of course, that's supposed to match up with the studio, which is never gonna quite work. But this is good fun, and you've got Balan there as well. Oh, and they shoot. I think all of that's lovely. All of the eat your heart out, Caves of Androzani. This is essentially the same as the Caves of Androzani chase, isn't it? Except it's Fraser Hines and the Quark. Oh, and a giant big rock. Bunged over the side of a cliff. I absolutely adore that. I think it's quite cartoony, but it's not stupid. It's fun. It's action packed. I love it. It's nicely shot. It's a lovely, great big rock. Oh, the rock is now split in two, has it? Or it's suddenly two rocks? It's had a baby rock, and you can see the sort of feet still moving. Love that. Love all that. Bit of wanton destruction, a bit of containable, fun, tea time violence. Only one person is strong enough to do that. I love that. Troughton's absolute delight in the carnage. And, of course, their relief that Jamie is still alive. I love that. And that speaks to the quality of this sort of ensemble and the team feel of the show at this time. But, yeah, John Hicks did an interview with a New Zealand newspaper. And he was at that time, it was like he's now 55. And this was probably 15 years ago now, so he's 70 now, and he was a kid then, because they were school children. Well, they say school children. They were stage school children. They were professionals. John Hicks, Gary Smith, and Freddie Wilson. And Gary Smith, I think, had played Oliver Twist on stage. I remember Freddie Foote, who played the servo robot, telling me he knew all of these guys. And as I said in an episode, Freddie said that he'd definitely played at Quark. So we need to get to the bottom of that. I need to interview Freddie on record, which I didn't do because I was hoping to visit him. And sometimes I drop the ball with this stuff because I get very nervous ringing people up, especially if I've already spoken to them and it's not quite come off for various reasons. I then feel sick at the prospect of phoning them back, but I need to get over myself. That's why I never consider myself a proper journalist. Proper journalists have front and guile and confidence, and I don't have any of those things. Gary Smith was quite a busy young actor, but you try finding Gary Smith. You Google Gary Smith and see where it gets you. And Equity, you see, don't hold records of child actors unless they went on to have long grown-up careers. And Corona Stage School, if they were at Corona, I think they were. If not, whichever stage school they were at, none of those records exist anymore. And Freddie Wilson, I think I have found and have written to, and he's never written back. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think Richard Bignell's written to him as well. So I don't think Freddie Wilson is interested in talking about his time as a Quark. And John Hicks, as I say, gave an interview, but I know Paul... Yay, it's the Subbuteo Bowl Weeble thing. John Hicks gave that interview to a New Zealand newspaper, which I still have. See if I can dig it out, actually. It's one of those bits of paper that I always find in a pile of bits of paper and go, oh, good, I'm glad I haven't lost that. But I haven't actually got a place where I keep it, so I don't actually know where it is. I'll find it when I'm looking for something else. But he gave a nice interview saying he, enjoyed being a Quark or whatever, and now he lived in New Zealand. Now, here's coming up. It's going to be my favourite bit, I think. I love the way he enters, by the way, this sort of the absolute disdain that he has for everything that's going on here. Brushes Boven past and just goes, I'm going to completely cut to the chase. He walks in, he has a look round, he sort of does a little recce, assesses the situation, doesn't give a stuff about anybody. He's really intimidating to Brian Cant. And has, he's affronted, but he has a slight amusement about these, arseholes standing up to him. That's right. I expect only one thing: superior force. That's the sort of, that's the, that's the. Perhaps you'd care to make an appointment. That is my favourite bit of this episode. That as I say, I love Ronald Mansell and John Cross as the two gossipy ones. Now, and I'm sure. Now, I don't think I had seen the Dominators in full until it came out on DVD. I don't think the VHS was a full edit. Or if it was, I hadn't got the VHS and I'd got a bootleg. But I've got a feeling. I'd seen the VHS, and I think the VHS, they'd got whatever was on the shelf. And the death scenes, I love his contempt for them. His curled lip is brilliant. But it's not just contempt, it's like amusement, but he's got authority. He's brilliant, Ronald Allen. But Tenser's death was briefer than that, and I think, is it in this episode? There's a scene where they torture Teal, which was definitely, I remember when I first watched the DVD going, oh, okay, that's much longer. And Balon's death at the end of this episode. Again, I was used to it just going sort of blub and him falling, whereas, as we'll see, he sort of he wanders around the spaceship getting shot and shot and shot, and it's really horrible. It is sort of one of those sort of slightly, if you care to view it in that way, slightly comical, repeat long-winded deaths. But I actually think, because I was used to it just being, a slight bit of talcum powder and him properly on the floor. The fact that I love the way he points as well. He does an alien point. He uses 3 fingers, not 1. And again, that's just going, I'm just going to do something slightly different here. I think that's superb. And yeah, poor old Brian Cant gets killed, and we don't see them again, do we? So, I mean, that's the end of our main guest star, Walter Fitzgerald, playing Senex, who, as I say, was a highly regarded leading character actor, done movies, doesn't have a character arc or anything, just basically comes on, and this is the bit, this was cut from the video, and certainly whatever was on the shelf at the BBC, and I think that the NFT or the BFI, somebody had another a copy, so that material could have actually been missing if we were unlucky. And sometimes just the reinsertion of those little bits. I was definitely the same with the Faceless Ones Part 1, where the copy I had would cut away from the little close-ups of the chameleon's hand that you see, and just the reinsertion of those tiny few seconds here and there can make a massive difference to an episode, because you couldn't show much, and you could only have certain levels of violence or horror or reveals or whatever. Those are precious moments, because they're deliberate dramatic high points or moments within a story, and that scene where it's all, and in fact what they cut wasn't you seeing Teal being tortured, it's Kando's reaction and begging Toba to stop, but you can hear Teal screaming, and so imagine the pain that he's in, and that was enough for it to be cut for Australia, I'm presuming. And having it back in just gives an extra edge to the episode, because I think, because we have these slightly straightforward and guileless characters from Dulkis, you do need a bit of edge, because they're not soldiers. The Web of Fear has edge because everyone's a soldier, and the monks in Abominable Snowmen are sort of quite tough cookies, especially Cresong. But the Dulkians don't really have that edge. And in fact, the one that showed some promise was Tenser, and he sort of got killed. Yeah, so this I'm sure in the video version, he it was just a zap, and he sort of falls to the ground. Whereas that he wanders around getting blasted again and again, and it's quite a slow, protracted death. And that's poor old Balin. You know, it's basically shooting hostages is a pretty grim thing to do dramatically. And you know, it's not we're going to threaten you end of episode. It's we're going to threaten you, right? We're going to carry out the threat. He's dead. And you go, well, okay, he's a disposable character, I suppose. Although they was just having a lovely chat with Zoe and the Doctor, and now he's been blasted to smithereens a couple of times. But now now to you, Doctor. So that's Senex and Tensor out of the way. The two of the more notable actors there aren't back next week and weren't in the first episode. So that's very curious. I mean, I think any old sausage could have played Senex. It's not often remarked upon that very well respected, but I think slightly on his way out actor Walter Fitzgerald is one of the more anonymous high-end actor contributions to Doctor Who. But yeah, that's that cliffhanger works very effectively, except that because you've seen Rago leave the council chamber, that Rago's going to walk in and go, "Don't waste energy, Toba, you idiot." And Toba's going to go, "Oh, command, blooming accepted. I wish I was a functioner." So my favourite bit of that episode, anyway, is the council member saying, "Perhaps you'd care to make an appointment." Just because I love the scene where Rago sort of storms in anyway. So maybe I can have the whole vibe of that whole scene. Because he walks in, completely ignores them and goes and looks around. Then he comes back and just says what he's got to say. And he doesn't even bother to kill anybody then. It's that he has to wait for Tensor to really push it before he goes, "All right, I'll kill you." But before that, because he's pushing his way around, they're going, this is simply not how we do things. Perhaps you'd care to make an appointment. But then he kills Tensor, which is great because those deaths are rather well done and longer than I'm used to because they cut a certain amount of the protractedness of the death scenes, so they're welcome and relatively new for me. And then he points to him using 3 fingers because that's how bad aliens point. So yeah, I liked all of that. I thought that was all great, but especially the line, "Perhaps you'd care to make an appointment." That's very Doctor Who because it's funny in a tense situation, and it's kind of arch and kind of silly, but it's also kind of real because we recognise it. It's pouring something we recognise into an alien setting, and therefore kind of helping us with the alien setting, but also making us laugh. Lovely, well done, everybody, for that bit. What is Andrew's favourite bit?
Okay, now to pick my favourite thing from episode 4. And it's straightforward, this one. My favourite thing in episode 4 is Jamie McCrimmon. He's apart from the Doctor, but this shows in this episode that he doesn't need the Doctor to be resourceful, full of ideas. He's got plenty of agencies. He's taken charge. He's taken the fight to the Dominators and even destroys a quark. With a cry of "Ya wee tin kettle." And there's a nice line as well that reminds us that he's from the clan McCrimmon and fought in the Jacobite rebellion. So yeah, fairly easy one here. And again, as a wee Scottish boy myself, I was very keen on Jamie as a companion back in the day. And this pairing of Jamie and Zoe with the second Doctor is really my perfect TARDIS trio. So there it is. Yeah, Jamie McCrimmon is my favourite thing from episode 4.
Jamie is really good in this, and I've been tempted a couple of times to choose, just Jamie and the Doctor together. I think in episode 2 I wasn't I? Because they are a great pairing, and they really bounce off each other well, and you just want to be with them. I think that's the key to a great successful TARDIS team. Is that you are even in a story that's not quite working or where something's not being quite pulled off production wise, if you're with people whose company you enjoy, who are helping you to enjoy it and are sort of enjoying themselves, but without, spoiling the reality of it, which, sounds like an oxymoron, but it sounds impossible to pull off, but it's not actually. And it's a certain kind of sort of acting chemistry that enables two apparently impossible things to be that are sort of slightly self-contradictory to coexist, and I think that does happen with Troughton and Hines. And yeah, I mean, I went straight for the "you'd care to make an appointment" because I got it in my head because I thought I just love that moment. But I could easily have chosen Jamie and Cully storming around, and I love the rock blowing up the quark, but because I'd had the blowing up quark last episode. I think that's why I put that out of my mind. But yeah, it's a great episode for Jamie, and I do like it when he's not sort of patronised and when he's allowed to be a little bit heroic, especially as Troughton's much better, walking around being manipulative and working things out with that sort of keen, intelligent and that ticking brain. It's great that if you can have Jamie going off and having a bit of rough and tumble, so I think that's a brilliant choice. Quite right, and I love Jamie. He's so good, and Fraser Hines is so good I concur with Andrew's choice, even though my choice was a different thing. So we have one more episode to go. There should have been 2 episodes, but Derek Sherwin has issued an edict to say no. Let's chop this down and cut to the chase. So we will get to one of the few climactic episode 5s that Doctor Who has. The first of them. This is the first Doctor Who 5-parter. But we've got all that to enjoy in the next episode of Happy Times and Places. The last episode of the Dominators, with Andrew Smith taking us full circle. And thanks very much for listening. And if you want to come along and enjoy the next episode, well, perhaps you'd care to make an appointment. Well, thanks very much indeed for listening to Happy Times and Places, presented by me, Toby Hadoke, with special guest Andrew Smith. Find him on Twitter at Andrew Smith, but there's a catch. The A and the S are in capital letters, and the E of Andrew is actually the number 3. I'd like to thank him, and of course, the patrons who make these podcasts possible, and they include Ashley Knight, Clive Lewis, Guy Lambert, James Lark, Gavin McLean, David Matthewman, John McClay, Rossa McPhillips, Stuart Mitchell, Nathan Moore, Matthew Newton, Dave Owen, Melvin Pena, Keith Pirrie, Jonathan Potter, Kevin Parker, Richie, give me a surname Richie, Dylan Rees, John Rivers, Mark Sandham, Jim Saxter, Matt Sawyer, Keith Say, Stephen Smith, aka Dalek Fan, Len Stewart, Neil Tate, Nick Temple, Sabrina Tirabassi, Reynard C. Toombs, and Apollo C. Vermouth. The music is by Dave Gates, the artwork by Dylan Patterson. Oh, if you want to become a patron and have your name read out, or like Stephen Smith, have your name and your nickname read out. More nicknames. Come on, guys, give me some more nicknames. I like those. Please go to patreon.com/Toby Hadoke, where for as little as £3 a month, you'd have got this commentary 6 months earlier than you're currently listening to it, unless you're a patron, but you know that. And you'd also have got several bits of bonus material, lots of advanced stuff, pictures of my dog, sort of access. We do monthly AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, all sorts of stuff. And it's quite fun. It's nice. I feel, like I can sort of just be myself there, and it's a really nice community, and a few people start chatting to each other as well underneath where I've posted the episodes, which, as I say, you get very early. So come and join us there. £3 a month. You get 10% off that if you sign up for a year in advance. There are higher tiers as well that have some more inducements, but basically pretty much everything is at the lowest tier. But look, I know that times are tough, and a monthly commitment may seem quite daunting. So there's ko-fi.com/Toby Hadoke. If you have a good week on the GGs, or I just do a thing that you particularly like and you want to fling something my way, kofi.com/Toby Hadoke. But my goodness, I know times are tough, and I know they're getting tougher. And I am just grateful to you for listening. And as I say, I hope these brighten your day somehow, or pass the time on your journey to work, or when you're doing the garden, or just trying to escape from reality. You're welcome to this corner of cyberspace, or Audiosville, and I'm very, very grateful you've let me into your ears. But what you could do that costs you nothing, apart from a little bit of your time, is to go to iTunes or Podbean, or wherever you get these podcasts. And if you leave me a 5-star review, that really helps me to attract passing customers in this very crowded market of Doctor Who podcasts. If you like this, please encourage other people. And that's one of the ways you can do it. You can also leave a few words of review alongside your 5-star rating, and go on to cyberspace and Twitter and Facebook and all those places and say nice things about these, because, as I say, it just helps to get the word out there. I'm also a stand-up comedian. I have a website, tobyhadoke.com, that's got various bits and bobs on it. And I'm on Twitter at Toby Hadoke. These podcasts have their own feed at Hadoke Podcasts. And you can come to my comedy club, XS Malarkey. That's on Twitter too, at XS Malarkey. An X, an S, and Malarkey, Malarkey. That also has its own Twitch channel, twitch.com/XS Malarkey. We do a monthly show there on the first Sunday of every month at 8 p.m, but there's also an archive of past shows because we went entirely online during lockdown. We're back live now Tuesday night at Manchester's Breadshed at 8 p.m, where it's me introducing brilliant acts from the live comedy circuit. Now, I've risked this tonight because just as I've started recording these bits, which I kind of want to get out of the way so I can put my feet up, next door started playing the piano. And he's a very good musician, and he plays the piano very nicely. But it's not ideal when I don't have a proper studio. I just have a couple of inverted shelves with some sponge taped behind them. Well, I have just recorded something for broadcast quality. That is Doctor Who related, actually. I've been very Doctor Who-y today. I can't say what it is, but I have been doing something audio-y, Doctor Who-y, just me, and not for me. Somebody's actually employed me. So in this very seat, speaking into this very microphone with this very larynx, I've been doing all sorts of Doctor Who-y flavoured stuff. Unfortunately, next door wasn't playing the piano. He is playing the piano now. I've just paused. Hang on. Yeah, plonking away, but I don't know. It might be that my soundproofing is so good that it's only me that can hear it. I hope so, but if not, yes, I'm not being haunted by, I was going to say Yehudi Menuhin, but he was a violinist, wasn't he? That would have been such a good stream of consciousness, little piece of witticism, if I'd actually been able to conjure the name of a pianist. Stevie Wonder. No, he's not even dead. Oh, dear. I must come in more prepared for this stream of consciousness crap that I spout at the end. Anyway, there's not a ghostly pianist. Stradivarius. That's a make of violin, isn't it? Why am I? Perhaps I'm being haunted in my head by violinists. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. You've had your money's worth, you end of credits listeners. There's an increasing number of them, a cabal. It's always nice to hear from you, to say you listen to the end. God bless you. I enjoy it more than I let on. But then again, I enjoy most things more than I let on. That is my glass half empty kind of thing that I put out there. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? Piano? Who knows? See, if I listen back, I won't know because he's still playing the piano. I tried that earlier, and I was like, I still don't know if that's the piano here or the piano there. Anyway, yes, there we go. That's the Andre Previn. Did he play the piano? Who plays the? Why have I forgotten the name of every piano player? Elton John. He's not dead. I need a dead piano player. I don't really. I think the moment's passed. Even if I now come up with the best dead piano player by whom I could be being haunted, I already think the moment is gone, and we're just shuffling around, all of us a little bit embarrassed. Sorry about that. Right, Rachmaninoff. There we go. Well, he was a composer, wasn't he? But I've just googled famous piano players because I don't care. Chopin, but these are all composers. Or I don't know who they are. Well, that's all right then. I don't know who they are, so that's okay. Scott Joplin. There we go. Oh, Georgie Fame. No, he's not dead, is he? Okay. Steve Debussy. But Schubert. Ray Charles. Herbie Hancock. Yes, finally. Is Herbie Hancock dead? Yeah, he must be. Let's have a look. He did. God, he's not. I'm so sorry, Herbie Hancock. He will come and haunt me when he does go, though. Now, will he? I'm gonna be stalked by a haunted piano. That was just all a complete disaster. But you know what? It's staying in.